What if I told you that one of the most powerful men in history slowly melted from the inside out? This isn't a myth or a legend. It's the true story of an emperor so obsessed with escaping death, he drank poison in the name of immortality. Name was Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of a united China. He built walls, raised armies, conquered kingdoms. But there was one enemy he couldn't defeat time, so he turned to ancient alchemy and a deadly silver liquid Mercury. In this video will uncover the chilling truth behind his quest to live forever. You'll learn how his obsession led to madness, how his secret death almost destroyed a dynasty, and why his tomb may still be leaking mercury to this day. So stay with us. This tale gets darker with every step. Welcome to History's Screen, where the past whispers its secrets. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss what history tried to hide long. Before he became a legend, he was just a boy named Ying Zheng, born in 259 BC in the Warring States period of ancient China. At the time the region was torn apart by conflict, 7 major states were locked in brutal wars, each fighting for control of the land. Ying Zheng was born into the royal family of the state of Qin at just 13 years old. He took the throne after his father's death. But it wasn't just a title. Young Zheng had ambition burning in his veins. Under his rule, the Qin military became ruthless and unstoppable. Over the next 2 decades, he crushed all rival kingdoms one by one. By 221 BC, the wars were over. Zheng had conquered them all. He did something no one else had done before. He united all of China. To mark his achievement, he gave himself a new name, Qin Shi Huang, meaning first emperor of Qin. He ruled with absolute power, but he didn't just want control, he wanted order. He standardized weights, measures, writing, currency, and even the width of cart axles. He ordered massive infrastructure projects, roads that stretched thousands of miles, a centralized legal system, and the early foundations of what would later become the Great Wall of China. But one of his most astonishing creations lay underground. Tens of thousands of life-size clay soldiers, each with a unique face, were buried near his future tomb. This vast terracotta army was meant to guard him in the afterlife. Qin Shi Huang had conquered death on the battlefield, but in his heart a greater fear was growing, one that swords and armies could never defeat. Qin Shi Huang may have united China, but deep inside he feared something no army could conquer: death. In the ancient Chinese worldview, immortality wasn't just a fantasy. It was a pursuit, a science, a spiritual goal, a royal obsession. Taoist philosophy spoke of hidden lands, magical mountains, and sacred elements that could grant eternal life. Emperors, nobles, and mystics all believed the secret to immortality might lie within the earth itself. Qin Shi Huang became obsessed. He wasn't just a ruler, he was a man haunted by the ticking clock. Determined to live forever, he issued imperial decrees commanding alchemists to create the elixir of life. They were ordered to search the land, gather rare ingredients, and bring back formulas that would make the emperor immortal. Some expeditions were sent to the legendary Penglai Island, said to be home to immortals. Sailors crossed dangerous waters in search of magic herbs and secret knowledge. Many never returned. Others came back with strange minerals and glowing powders, swearing they held the power to cheat death. Among these substances was something called cinnabar, a bright red ore known to ancient chemists. It was made from mercury sulfide, and when processed it produced liquid mercury. Some believed cinnabar had sacred properties. In carefully prepared forms, it was used in small doses in traditional medicines. But in the wrong hands, it became something far more dangerous. Qin Shi Huang's alchemists promised that mercury, this silvery, shimmering liquid, was a key to eternal life. The emperor believed them. He began to drink small amounts of mercury, regularly convinced that it would purify his body, protect his soul, and keep him alive forever. He didn't know that mercury was quietly killing him from within. But he was not alone in this belief. Across dynasties and centuries, many Chinese emperors followed the same path, swallowing poisons in search of immortality. Qin Shi Huang, however, was the first to take that fatal leap into forbidden chemistry. With the entire empire watching, mercury is not like other metals. It's cold silver and liquid at room temperature. It looks beautiful, almost magical, but it's also one of the most toxic substances on Earth. When Qin Shi Huang began drinking mercury-based elixirs. No one around him truly understood the danger. Alchemists saw it as mystical, not deadly. But the emperor's body knew better at first. The symptoms were easy to miss. He experienced headaches, fatigue, and occasional tremors. These were brushed off as stress or signs of aging. But mercury doesn't just stay in the stomach. It moves through the body. It attacks the nervous system, slowly disrupting brain function. Over time, Qin Shi Huang's mind began to change. Historical accounts describe an emperor who grew increasingly paranoid and unstable. He feared assassins and traitors. He began switching sleeping chambers at night to avoid being tracked. Few people were allowed near him. His trust in others vanished. Even toward his closest advisors, he also became obsessed with omens and dreams. If he saw a comet in the sky, he would order the execution of entire villages, blaming them for cosmic misfortune. He believed that disasters were signs the gods were angry or that his life was in danger. These thoughts consumed him. Some scholars believe these were the classic signs of mercury poisoning. The tremors, the fear, the confusion. His mental decline seemed to match the timeline of his elixir use, but not everyone agrees. Some historians argue that Qin Shi Huang may have already suffered from anxiety or mental illness long before the mercury. Others say his paranoia was natural for a man who had fought countless enemies and ruled with absolute power. After all, many rulers become isolated and fearful with time. Still, physical symptoms were hard to ignore. Reports suggest his skin grew pale and his movements became stiff. In the final months of his life, he traveled constantly hoping to find more elixirs or hidden healers. He was only in his 40s, but he looked and moved like an old man. Then, while on a tour of Eastern China in 210 BC, something changed. He became seriously ill and could not continue. His condition worsened rapidly. But what exactly caused his death? Was it illness? Was it mercury? Or was it something no one at his court dared to record? The answer remains a mystery, but the effects of his obsession were just beginning to unravel. In the summer of 210 BC, Qin Shi Huang was traveling through eastern China on one of his many inspection tours. He was far from the capital. His goal once again was to search for new medicines and magical elixirs that might prolong his life. But this time his body could no longer keep up. He suddenly fell ill. The emperor who had once conquered all of China could barely walk or speak. He was only 49 years old, but years of stress, heavy rule, and likely mercury poisoning had taken their toll. His condition worsened with each passing day. After a brief struggle, he died silently and unexpectedly. On the road in a remote part of his empire, his death threw the court into immediate panic. Emperor had not named a clear successor. His oldest son was the rightful heir, but the powerful chief eunuch Zhao Gao and Prime Minister Li Si feared losing their grip on power. So they made a choice that would change history. They hid the emperor's death for weeks. They pretended he was still alive to mask the smell of decay. They filled carts with rotting fish and placed them near the emperor's carriage. The heat of summer made it worse, but the cover-up worked. No one outside the inner circle suspected the truth. Meanwhile, they forged a letter in the emperor's name. In it, they ordered his eldest son to commit suicide. Then they installed the younger son, Hohai, as the new emperor, someone they could easily control. But Hohai, who would become known as Qin Shi, was no leader. He was weak, inexperienced, and heavily influenced by Zhao Gao. Under his rule, fear and cruelty increased, but leadership vanished. Rebellions soon broke out. The common people, already burdened by high taxes and forced labor, rose up. In less than 4 years after Qin Shi Huang's death, the dynasty he had built collapsed. By 206 BC, the mighty Qin Empire was gone. What began as a secret death on a quiet road became the beginning of total downfall, and the body of the emperor, who wanted to live forever, was rushed back to the capital silently, hidden behind carts of stinking fish. Before his death, Qin Shi Huang ordered the construction of a tomb unlike anything the world had ever seen. It was meant to be his eternal palace, a place where he could rule forever in the afterlife. The tomb took nearly 4 decades to complete. More than 700,000 laborers worked on it. Deep beneath a large hill near modern-day Xi'an, they built a hidden underground chamber. Inside the emperor's vision came to life in the most bizarre and mysterious ways. Historical texts describe a space filled with wonders. The ceiling of the burial chamber was decorated to resemble the night sky with stars made of pearls. The floor held an elaborate map of China with miniature mountains and flowing rivers, but the rivers weren't made of water. They were crafted using liquid mercury. Mercury was rare and expensive, but it was believed to be a divine substance, magical, powerful, and eternal. The idea was to mimic the natural world and preserve it forever underground. Ancient sources say that the mercury rivers flowed through mechanical channels powered by hidden gears and pressure systems. They moved like real water. In modern times, scientists have measured high levels of mercury in the soil near the tomb mound. Readings taken by Chinese researchers suggest that something toxic still lingers beneath the surface. The levels are far above what would be expected from nature alone, but what lies inside remains a mystery. Central chamber, where the emperor's body is believed to rest, has never been opened. Archaeologists are cautious, not just because of mercury, but because no one knows what ancient traps or mechanisms might still be active. Historical records speak of crossbows rigged to fire automatically if the tomb is disturbed. There's also the matter of preservation. If the tomb is opened too quickly, the contents might be destroyed by sudden exposure to air and light. The Terracotta Army, which was discovered nearby in 1974, lost much of its original color within hours of excavation. For now, the heart of Qin Shi Huang's tomb remains sealed. Hidden beneath a quiet hill, it waits untouched and filled with secrets no one dares to disturb. Qin Shi Huang's death sent shockwaves through history, though. His empire collapsed within a few years. His influence stretched far beyond his lifetime. Future dynasties learned from his rule and his mistakes. The Han dynasty, which followed the Qin, kept many of its reforms. They used the same legal codes, writing system, and centralized government, but they also ruled with a softer hand, trying to avoid the fear and strict control that had defined Qin Shi Huang's reign. His search for immortality didn't die with him. It inspired many rulers who came after. Across Chinese history, emperors from the Tang and Qing dynasties also consumed mercury-based elixirs. Like Qin Shi Huang, they believed in magical formulas and secret ingredients that could keep them alive forever. Many of them met similar fates. Mercury slowly poisons their bodies. Symptoms like tremors, memory loss, and paranoia appeared again and again in royal records. But even with centuries of knowledge, the obsession with defeating death remained. In ancient China, alchemy was more than chemistry. It was spiritual. It blended science, religion, and magic. And sometimes that mixture was deadly. Even today, scholars studied Qin Shi Huang's case as a warning about what happens when unchecked power meets unproven science. Had the wealth, the influence, and the authority to chase a dream no one dare question. And that dream led him into darkness. His tomb still rests beneath the earth untouched. His empire vanished, but his story remains etched into stone, buried in mercury, and whispered through history. Qin Shi Huang was one of the most powerful men in history. He united a fractured land, built a massive empire, and ruled with unmatched authority. But in the end, it wasn't war or rebellion that ended his reign. It was his desperate quest to live forever. Ironically, the very substance he believed would grant him immortality, Mercury, was slowly destroying him from within. His story is a haunting reminder of what happens when fear overpowers reason, when even the strongest ruler cannot escape the one truth we all must face. Sometimes in trying to conquer death, we become its victim. Thank you for watching this story from History Screen. If you enjoyed this video and want more untold stories from the past, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel there, as so much more that history is still hiding, and we're here to uncover it.